Hi, Namaskaram. Hello, I'm Ravi Surya, and I welcome you all for this Ask Me Your Question session. I'm trying to experiment a format where I can reach out to uh, to the community and share my learnings, my mistakes, and also listen the questions and challenges uh, and the kind of problem that they are solving. So in that path, today I picked up one topic that is test data. Yes, test data. We have challenges when we type data, right? Yeah, we have challenges. So, um, what is that test data, or what is that right test data, or what is test data, and how to handle the test data? That's a question. Okay, that kept coming to me as I continued my career in software testing and engineering. Definitely, you should also be having the same questions, or you could be going through the questions in a very big different perspective, but more like we align to that challenges and the problems. So feel free to share the questions on this chat here, and yeah, I'll be taking up them. Um, Before that, anytime did you recognize or feel that the data you enter is something of the similar pattern, be it when you're testing your web GUI or mobile GUI or API testing or performance testing and security testing? There is some pattern, right, with the test data that you were trying to use. Yes. So try to recall that, okay, and see how can you connect, okay, as I do take you for the next 30 minutes. Okay. Okay. So let me see the questions that I've got. Um, Before that, let me share, okay, my screen and walk you through in gist what I understand for test data and how I can brief quickly and take you to the thought process from where I'm coming. And note that this thought process of me is evolving, and it will be evolving as I practice. So do yours. Okay. So let me share my screen. Uh, okay. 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 Test data. Um, for the first thing, when I was asked, okay, what is the test data from my manager back in 2006, I was like, what is that? Okay, so that awareness, what I'm having today, I did not have then, and this awareness is growing, getting brighter and brighter, and sometimes dim, and sometimes dark, and sometimes light. But this awareness is growing, where it is unlearning and learning. Let me take you through this quickly. So before test data, let I need to have awareness of what test. Okay, what is test? In simple words, okay. I quote this from James Back, and I see it makes sense when he says that a test is a question to a product. Why is he questioning, or why am I questioning? Because I have to learn, and I have a specific intent, and I want to learn that specific thing. What I'm trying to learn from the test. So, intent of a test. So, what I'm trying to learn from this test. Then, context of test. What composes a test? What composes a test? Again, intent of a test, environment, system of the test, data, actions, human, machines, program instructions. So, I can test by myself, or I can test by writing a code, like multiple ways, right? So, in gist, this. Next is, how am I testing using this test design? How am I testing using this test? This is where, okay, we're going now. A test. Now, okay, one step back. Okay, like one step back, like what we call okay shift left, where from okay going to left or to the start. So this is where okay this awareness takes us to back. Test design. Okay, test design. Okay, let me come to that. So before test design, okay, test strategy. Uh, this test strategy, okay, at least in minimum it composes of okay test coverage, data coverage, and more. Again, a test design will head my test strategy. Okay, so I'll not get into okay the details of this, but I will tell you what is test design. Okay, as I go in gist. So this also applies to the data. So I and you definitely design the data as we test. Though you type okay you and I type okay sometime in random ASDF okay semicolon 1 2 3 4 everything okay is a data that's coming unconsciously from somewhere. But how to make it more conscious? That's where we get into the act of design. Okay. So now let me come to data. What is data? It is you, it is me, it is a system, it is a business. If you closely watch, data is is what we give, or is what we take, or is what we exchange for something in a business. Okay, and data has an intent. Data has an intent. For example, my email ID that has got an intent, right? So so does okay the does data that I enter. It has got an intent. Domain. This is very important. Okay, domain. So we are that okay. A tester should have a very good domain knowledge. So in my opinion, it's not just tester. It is the team okay that is building system should have that domain perspective. Forget okay the knowledge, domain knowledge. First, you should have okay that domain intent and the perspective, because that domain it identifies the data, or it will let you know, or it will let me know what is that data, right? So domain is important. I remember the um, chemical nurse okay work on domain testing. You should take a look at that. Okay, and it's very important for a engineer who is building and testing and maintaining the software systems. And data has got the characteristics, value. Data has got a value. For example, okay, my bank account number it's got a value. My other card number means other card number. When I say other card number, it is like a social security number, like in India. And data has got constraints. Data has got type. I will not get into okay this. Just question back. What is that type? What is that value? What is that characteristics? What is the constraint? And take that to your context and try to question and pull out okay that information from within you. And data's got a structure. ASDF 1 2 3 4. ASDF 1 2 3 4. Okay, that's something comes okay randomly. The PCI okay I see in a test data in systems when I run through. Even that's got a structure. But how good enough is that? And structure is not just what I enter. It can be in multiple ways, multiple okay meanings. We'll dive this into these details when we actually work on test data. But for now, know this. Okay, awareness. Know this for first. Something there exists as that. Question that. What is that, and why does it exist in place? Size, platform, pattern, and data's got challenge. Data's got regulations, infinite combinations, and more. So data comes with all this and much more. And imagine, okay, when I'm given a system to test, what should I consider, or what do you consider? How do you consider, okay, this in a structured way of your thinking and applying your testing? How do you think? Be it you doing a test or you doing your test via a program code. How do you do that? Think about it. And test data. Test plus data. Test, in simple words, it's a question to a product to know something what I'm interested. Data, what is the data? Data that helps me to continue my testing and to learn what I want to know. How does it help? Does that data help me quickly to learn how quick this? So I I, 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 I want to share this example or something, okay, mm, that I've done along with my teams. So when there is a new feature coming in or something, okay, change, we analyze that change technically and also in terms of business, and we see how to propagate and the data to that change and how to design test data. Sometimes we take days to design the test data by knowing what to test. So now I know what to test. Okay, that's what is the question that I have to ask, and the questions also get keep evolving as I test. So test design. I'm going okay back test design test design test data. You see, so these things are all mapped. So we go in a way which is structured as I explore. So let me pull out one example from my previous works. In one of the projects, we spent I think around 10 days to design test data. So as I designed, okay, test data, now it was very clear for me, okay, the test design and the test and what is the intent of test and what this test data will go and do in the system. So I know what it will go and do in the system if it is supposed to do that way. If not, I will learn. And I could, and I could, my team could cover okay that feature testing within few hours in a day, and say, see, this was the blocker. Technically, this is a okay critical impact in terms of business, and here is a showstopper. It was from functionality, it was from security, it was from performance. And say performance, how is that? You can ask, right? I was testing for a microservice, and usually what we do, hit a request, see the status code, response, okay, done. Play in and around, okay, that payload, okay, done. But what we miss is we miss to see how that data on that service is impacting. How? So this data was helping to grow the heap size, and I was monitoring the heap size. Now there was a change in this version of the endpoint when compared to the previous version. So this version on the stage, it showed that the heap is growing, and it kept growing, and I figured out this can lead to out of memory, and it would crash. Okay, that endpoint at certain point in time, and it happened. Why it happened? Because of the data that was given, and that was a valid, structured data for that context. How could we get there? How could we get there? So that's what. That is the impact of having the data sets and which we pull out for sampling. I did not test for okay the bunch of or the whole lot of test data. Designed, partitioned it, uh, and pulled and made okay the subsets. Now I know this subset of data will lead to this behavior, and this is the impact, and this is the result. What is going on? Okay, that was one example. Okay, and even the projects. Okay, coming to projects, I will walk you through there. So in simple, test this data. Okay, now in practice, data set samples. Uh, what is data samples? This is typical data, right? What would have seen in your team or in your project, or someone, okay, trying to enter data. This all this are valid data, yeah. But is this structured data? Once it's structured, we do it scientifically, right? Scientifically and technically, why I'm using this data? Yeah, this is valid data to some extent, but is this good enough to learn the behavior of a system, which is intent of your test? Question mark. Okay. So in a way, unstructured data is also structured to an extent. So, but is this good enough? That's a question. Okay, ask that question to yourself. Okay, now let me come to test data sets. What do I have here? Yeah, sampling, versioning, legacy, inventory, rerouting. So test data subsets, and sampling. And when I sample, I know this partition of test data will more likely lead to the same behavior and response. So this is where I should come, okay, technically with my test and test data. versioning. So I type AAA, ASDF, LKG done. Okay, now what if you want to test in a regression for next cycle? How would you bring your test data? Okay, that was not a well thought structured data, but how do you test? And this is what I'm telling you now. It's very much important to test the LLMs or the AI systems. You should have the test data and its versions taken as a backup, or it's maintained so that you can exercise these versions of test data against the build that you're getting, or the models that has been tuned and built, right? You see, I should pull out my versions of data that I exercised earlier and try out that on the new versions of the built data plot. So I'm not seeing test engineers have maintaining or adding that test data versions. It's very simple. Okay, you can start this practice in simple. Go to the Excel sheet, or go to better. Okay, go to a drive where you have a Google sheet. Make a versions of your data and save them, and try to pull them and exercise. Okay, start from there, and you can grow as you practice. Legacy legacy data uh, should be figured out and identified and should be maintained in the domain of business, in the domain and field of business. That should be used for your testing, because legacy data. How do I get legacy data? Again, that's a question mark. It's a work. It's a practice. Have that legacy data. Inventory. I have an inventory of my test data, which I pull out for functional, security, performance, and I keep updating this and I maintain this. And I use each of these versions when I see the changes and where to pull what data. I do that. Do you do that? Think about that. If you're not doing that, it's time to do that, because your test and the test data talk about your testing a lot. It talks about the automation that you're doing. It talks about the test engineering practice that you are putting in the place. It does. The test data reflects a lot about you and me. Yeah. And I should know when to retire the test data. Though I retired, this is back into my inventory. I know now this is back. This can be in legacy, but still I'm retiring. But I should know when to pull out this data and test. Like you have API versions of V1, V2, V3, or you have multiple versions of app deployed in the backend, or the app versions. You should have the versions of test data. Think about that. And if you have questions how to do that, let me know. Yeah, I'm reading the questions. I'll take them. Here, exercise the intent of test data with test data sets versions. Yeah, this is important. Exercise the intent of test with the test data sets. Sometimes what I see is the intent of test will be away from the intent of test data. And that does not help me to learn the behavior of the system. Yeah, it has happened. They should go in parallel, and that should have the goal which complements and hates each other. The intent of test and the intent of test data. Okay. And test data itself a project within a project. As I said, we spent, if it was a sprint of 14 days, let's say 14 working days, sorry, not working days, 14 days in 2 weeks, I and my team would have spent close to 5 to 6 days on test data in maximum hours in a day. That's the effort we put into that, and it has benefited a lot. You decide, you think what works for your context, but work on test data. Okay, so I will keep it here for now. Let me go to the questions that I got from the community. And community, thanks for asking your questions and sharing your questions. This is a way even I learn when I interact and listen to the problem that you're facing, so that it will also help me to learn. And thank you again for sharing your questions. Keep sharing. Okay. If I am aware of it, if I have crossed it, I'll let you know what I did or what my team did. If not, still I can think from experiences and approaching it. If not, I'll say I don't know, but I'll get back to you and I'll definitely share. So yeah, let me take. Now the this okay questions. Okay, um, questions. Srini sir, thank you for your questions. Challenge one: setting up data in upstream systems to suit test cases that need to be run. Okay, data in upstream systems. Okay, upstream. Okay, understand. He is coming from probably the context of microservices and where a system is serving multiple nodes in the business. There is a AUT and there are upstream systems. Okay, in corp setup, individual teams are set up for each applications. Yes, corp setup, and this can be evident in the product companies. Okay, who develop, and even in the service companies as well. Okay, who develops both the back end and the front end and any layers. Okay, in system, we can experience this. Hence, getting another team to set and getting another team to set some data in other system often encounters a lot of manual effort and red tapeism. Okay. There's something called Conway's law. So Conway, I think it's Melvin Conway. Yeah. He's a programmer, or senior. Melvin Conway. You can see for Conway's law. I'm typing that in a chat. Conway's, okay. Conway's law. Okay. And it's also called inverse of Conway's law. So what it says is the Conway's law. It says this: the architecture of a system is more of the reflection of the communication and the structure of the organization. I'll repeat that. The architecture of a system is a reflection of the communication and the structure of organization. And there is a inverse of this as well. So what it says is how that's the how the teams are organized in a org. It is also the reflection of what the uh, teams are building. For example, let's take there is one broad tech company. It is building a solution to a customer. Now they have a backend team which develops microservices. When I say microservices, okay, it can be login, payment, profile, ads, okay, a lot many. So now login can be built by one team, okay, which works in one group, sales in like a payment in one group, and each components in different groups. Now this team, right, they will not know what the other team is doing, though everyone are of backend. So one login team will focus on the login component, and they work and that they try to abide by the contract between the teams, and they move. They will not know. Okay. Likewise, the front end teams which are developing the client teams, mobile apps or websites, they will not know what's happening at the back end. They will know what's going on. Just they will take the contract. They'll try to abide by that. If you see now, the whole org is in a silo, and I did experience this, and I see it working this way. Now, let's say there's a team who is trying to build test data in in the upstream system and trying to maintain it, and upstream system, and there are like multiple teams now, like in the backend, okay, login, payment, profile, multiple teams. They're trying to access that test data. Now there's a client team who is trying to access that data. They try to create data. They try to modify data. Now that data will be uh, with noise over the time. So I witnessed this problem, and I figured out I cannot solve this because, as I said, each team is focused on their work. Whenever they want, they go and do add, update, or edit. Okay, they do that. And if I go and talk, okay, hey, this is my data. Why do you do that? They'll say, I got that and I did that. And the best what they will do is they'll create their own data for their work. It's me, okay, who is trying to create the data for a system as a whole and trying to maintain that. That's something a pain point over the time because it does not work. And if I take this to the upper level of management asking for this. What I understand is that what I learned and what I understand is this: they've got a bigger problem than this to solve, and they'll say you try to live with this because it's a problem, but it's not of that priority to them, and they try to push back saying you deal with this and try to solve it. How do I solve it? So I did solve by having uh, my test data which is not visible to most, and I know to pull that data and use it when I need it. And if I need to create test data, what I did is I used the endpoints and I used a Postman because that's simple. And most of my team, was aware of how to use Postman. So I wrote a script. Now I ran, means uh, I go and change, variable where I can identify this is a test data from this version of deployment. Now it creates that test data. Now I can identify by that, appended data. Now I can pull that data and I can run. So this is not visible to most teams. Okay, uh, and I can play with this data. So this is one way. Maintaining for the whole org, that's another vertical in the org, and it will become a business, which I'm not entitled to do that. And in the time of what I get, I can't do that. So this is a problem. So how to solve it? So take a workaround and do it. So this is what I did. Okay, and yeah, this is, and there was like one more challenge. I was asked to create test data while I automate, and then remove the test data once the automation is done, so that that test data is not left over in the system. I repeat it. I was asked to create test data in automation when the test is about to run and release that test data from system once the automation is done. Do you see the challenge here? I have to maintain the automation runs and the code of that, and upon that now I should maintain the code for test data creation, maintenance, and removing it. If what, let's say now the test fails here on GUI or on API or on that security pipeline, it fails. Now this test data would become a stale data, and to remove that, that data would be dependent on something else in the system. So there is no one flow of touch, and that will remain system. Now look at the load and pain point in automation. So for me, it was not a use case for automation to automate and create test data before a running test and remove it because of the complexity of system. But this thought process for the stakeholders comes from the perspective of unit test, because in unit test we are creating that data in the sandbox, within the sandbox, which I can remove easily. So I run a test, I create test data in my sandbox. After test, I can remove that. It's gone. But when it comes to the practice of test engineering in the pipeline, data creation, data management, data removal is difficult. And when I say it's difficult, it's hard because, as I said, the touch points of data has been it's been like a symbolic link. Now, if I remove that, there is some constraint on the other system which is saying it is holding it. It will not know. So this is a challenge that I faced, and it was good to leave access and to create test data with some appending variable which I can identify. It was on this day and for this build, and move. Okay, that was one. So I hope I answered it clear. Okay, I'm not clear with what is your solution for challenging one data cache in upstream. API is only route. Uh, that challenge is not solvable until the org picks up and they come to a support, because uh, let's say the test environment, and test environment is maintained with the testing. Let's say the front end team, who is testing for mobile apps. I think you can relate this very quickly. Now, mobile app team is creating test data and maintaining, and this data is also being used by the backend teams and other team as well. Now, the backend team can create or edit this data which I created in the mobile app team. Now, some other team can create data and they can tag to this data. So this happens on floor. So uh, here This happens because we all have only one environment and we are working on that environment as one team. So unless okay the team comes into that communication, okay, this is the data, okay, this is how we use, okay, or this way I say, okay, we create on inventory or one version. So this is a test data. You have it here, okay. This is how we go for this release for these changes. So now the team is aware, okay, how to use that. So that's one way to go, and I brought that into practice. So this is more of how we approach and how we use the test data rather saying it's a technical problem. It's not a technical problem, it's a people problem. Okay. And reserving test data created in AUT or upstream systems for specific terms use so that other teams do not change it. Yeah. As I said, okay, we can have an inventory where we maintain the versions of a test data and refer to that and say, okay, this is a test data. I know this is not a straightforward thing to get into systems straight away. This is a practice. This is a practice on the culture that should be brought into the engineering. And for me, it was possible because I was very much on it with my test teams and the dev teams with which I worked. So it takes time. It even for me it took okay months to take there, and we brought that into practice. If you ask, did that not fail? It fails, but the pain point what I had before on fail and now it was very minimal, and we could easily come back on and do that. If I'm not answered your question, Srinivasa, let me know. Yes. Okay, let me take from chat. ASDF 1234 test. Okay. Sashank Shekhar. Should test data always be passed from external source only? So, what do you mean by external source? Shashank, let me know. Test coverage and test coverage. Yeah, test coverage and data coverage are different. Okay. But um, it overlaps and it's like uh, the both can tell about the other. If you ask me okay about my father, I can tell about my father, and if you ask me about father to me, I can tell about my father, but we both are different, but I can tell a lot about him and he can tell a lot about me, but both are different. And he and I can tell about each other because we know each other very well. Okay, that's the intent. If I okay, and that intent okay draws okay that connection between these two. If I pick a test data which is well structured, more likely I can tell okay probably this is a test of okay that is being drawn from this test data's intent and vice versa. Okay, yeah. Can you share an example where testing can goes in one direction and test data goes in other direction? Okay. If I have to test for login, okay, login. I'll take simple example login. My test data would be okay. What in case of login in authentication, it could be let's say my phone number and OTP that I receive, or email ID and password, right? So now, what should I test? What is the intent of my test in the login? Most times, okay, we type okay valid invalid, okay, or empty incorrect password and the correct password. What is that? Is this a test for login? So what am I supposed to test in login? So what I did now, email address and okay password and sign in, that is a flow. That is a one flow in okay in that case. So what we say is we say I tested for login. That means I tested for authentication by giving valid invalid email ID and password and its combinations. Is that done? If my if I don't think of okay a data which will go and actually test how the authentication is happening and how the authentication actually works. Okay, if I don't know how the authentication actually works, then I cannot design data, then I cannot think of test. So if you see my intent is to test authentication for its functionality. That's in simple. So what should I test for functionality? What should my data be for functionality? Email ID password done, phone number OTP done. What's after that? How? I will leave that question to you, people, and let me know. Okay, in the same comment box or in chat. I'll pick up later, and I will give and I'll tell you how I do think. So in this case, if you look at the login and test data center are different, because my data was just to say I could log in using this data. Okay, did that test authentication of system? What is authentication? What is authentication? How to get data to test actually the authentication? So this in gist. Uh, from Chidambara, when multiple dependent systems are involved, and if you don't have access to those systems, but what test data questions depend on the team, how to solve this? Again, this is a problem of a team. Again, the Conway's law work here, Conway's law and inverse of Conway's law. Probably you're from microservices team, where one team is building, let's say, upstream system, and you're consuming its service, and they have some data for data there, and you're not getting that data. How to do that? So this is an example of Conway's law. I think Conway said this somewhere in 1960s, and this even applies today as well. So just Google for or search for Conway's law and inverse of Conway's law, and this is one of the impact of how we organize ourselves in the org when building system. So microservice works in silos. So you could be from team A and team B is in silos, and you're not aware of what they're doing and how the data has been consumed, and you're not getting that data when you want to actually pull when you want to actually hit that service. So this is more of a people problem, and how we want to bring it in the practice. So this is where the test data comes in picture, the test data management. Okay, again, this is a whole topic in terms of a PhD, yeah, PhD study, and it's the business problem for first, because in the business we want to bring that team into that collaboration and into the line of communication, which is not actually in practice because we work in silos. Yeah. I hope I answered that, Chidamra. You for this, the best way, I won't say best way, one of the ways is to maintain the test data inventory, which is referred to by multiple teams. It could be the upstream and downstream teams, and they should talk. Okay, this is my data of this version for this deployment, and you can go and refer to that. There should be that sampling or that subset of data available, so you can pull them and you can use it. So as I walk through my inventory and versioning and updating, and we should also know how to retire them eventually. It's a practice. It's a practice before it is the technical problem to approach technically. It's a practice. And Shini Kulkuni, I'm not clear with what is your solution to challenge. Okay, thank you. I will work it. I'll let you know again. So, example, I'm testing a net banking app. I want consumer account in CBS system and check balance to 0 as required by testing. What now? Okay. Login sort of one account that allow one log is a test for a login password one combination that allow one to login is a test for authentication logic. See, authentication is behind I'm logging into system. When I authenticate, it creates an instance. It creates a timestamp. It creates a state for me, and that state is referenced by multiple nodes. Which fetches my authentication. So if we think authentication as authorization, like which is like a OAuth or tokens, no, it's not that. That is authorization. Authentication is different from authorization, and authentication and authorization needs each other. If I cannot authenticate to a system, I cannot or I'll not be authorized to do something in a system. So authentication is it's not just logging in. That is authentication. It's a login is one act to say that I'm trying to authenticate I'm telling you who am I. Who am I? I am email ID and password or mobile number and OTP. That's what I enter. But to the system at back or system which is dealing with all this. These are binaries for it. Okay, it doesn't know I'm Ravi Surya or what. I'm my authentication data are just binaries to them. and it will try to match the data there. If it matches, it say I know, I can recognize you with this data, I'm letting you in. That's all. That's authentication. That is what I'm doing with a login. Is that all about the test? So if I want to test that authentication, how do I say login? One case of login is done, and that authentication system is good enough. How do I come to that? So what is the data that I've used to test the authentication of a system in the system? So if I cannot think of a test data which actually go and triggers and tests, help me to test that authentication feature in the system, I cannot think of a test. So I need, for this I need to know the system. I need to know how the authentication works, how it is implemented, and I should pull out the data subsets which will go into that. When I know this, I can craft my test, and where I can match the intent of test data and the intent of a test. Okay, I'll take a question of Avanti Gada. Creating or finding data sets to test features built on LLMs. Okay, creating or finding data set to test features built on LLMs. How to test AI tools which were built using LLMs. Okay, so the application are internal to org. Fine. To take generic example, say there's a college finder who when student searches and certain inputs, it looks at internet and gets all possible options in result. Again, this goes to the intent of data. How do I create a data? How do I engineer the test data? I should know the engineering of the system, LLM. So for the first question is, the LLM model is deployed within the environment, or I'm actually eating the the provider of LLM. Let's say now OpenAI, or ChatGPT. I'm eating that actually ChatGPT that is hosted on the OpenAI space, or it's within my org space. First question. Okay. Second question is, what are the configurations and weight that I'm using? When I pass my data to that LLM in a prompt. So this is configured somewhere in the request payload. So this when I hit to that model, there is some weight, there is some parameters that there is some analytical information that is uh, looked by the LLM model, and I'm passing to that, and it takes that, it works, and it gives me back. So, and third thing is I should know what I'm actually passing to the transformer, that's decoder and encoder, and how many iterations it's going through. If I can understand this, I can think of this data. But just getting into too much of this, I will actually go and test that LLM rather testing my application, which is making a request to the LLM model. So I should know the boundary. So getting into deep, in a way, I'll actually go and test that actually LLM built by someone. Is that the goal of my testing, or not? Or the goal of my testing is to test what I want from the LLM model? Okay, identify this, and you will craft your test data. Okay, and second is know what is that payload taking from your application to that LLM. So this will have details. So talk to the programmer and developers who is doing this work. They will walk you through. Okay, now this is the payload. This is the analytical information that I'm carrying. So this will help you to think about your data. Okay, and now let's say you are testing on that GPT-3, let's say version 2, then came version 3, then came version 4. Now if you see, there is some improvements, right, in these versions, each of this. So you are passing data to version 2, version 3, version 4. Now, does it respond in the same way? If not, then there is some change. So again, we should maintain the inventory of test data along with versions of for the test data. Now, as and when we point to the new version of LLM model, I should exercise the whole test data versions against it. Let's say now in the future, the org want to go with some other LLM from a different provider. I built, let's say, for ChatGPT. Tomorrow they can go for DeepSeek. Now I should be able to use this test and work there as well. Again, what is the change now? LLM model and how I'm sending the data means that analytical information in the prompt to the LLM. So define okay the scope for first. Think about okay how to query um, with the data and see how it's responding, and know the tech details of your application, which is sending a request to the LLM, and start from here. Okay, and there is no one way of doing it, Avanti. There is no one best way. So it is like you are building a product within your testing. It is the test data is a byproduct of your testing, and within it's a product. You are building it, and you are trying to exercise okay that with help of a test. So it's a journey, but start from having an inventory. Mean okay, know the LLM, know the LLM model version that you're using, and know the request prompt that you're getting from your client application, and know the analytical weight of that request prompt, and see how it responds. Okay, to that, and why it responds in that way. And one step in that side, that is know the transformer of that model of LLM, and try to understand how the decoder and encoder works, and understand this all these things are all like technical things. Okay, which might be what is this? Okay, if that is the case for the team, fine. Now what to do is don't think about LLM models and the system technically okay, don't get into deep technical things, just put these things logically. So this is this, so build that okay visualization in a logical way. So this is this, and this if this happens okay this comes here. Try to build that okay visually understanding model, a visual model of okay that LLM models, and try to integrate okay the intent and of your test and data, and see how it works. I think this is the first step. Okay, if uh, technical aspects of this AI and LLMs are too much right away. Okay, here. Okay, I'll come to it. So from Sukanya Santana Krishnan. Thanks, Sukanya, for asking a question. What one should keep in mind when the test data is confidential, like password, personal details? Again, I said right, test data has got a lot of things within it. So one thing is the regulations. Okay, I understand. Okay, this is with to do with okay when I say confidential, that means there is some kind of regulations, be it okay imposed by the industry-wide practice or by okay that project specific. Know what is the regulations? For example, okay for the payment card industry. I think there is version 4.0 now. Okay, like the data security, you can see this PCI DSS 4.0. I think that is the latest one for the payment card industry. So likewise, okay, there are like multiple again guidance like IPA, and there are like multiple regulations. You see again, you see here, I should write the domain. So understand the domain. So test data is more about okay how it reflects the domain. So this domain can have that regulations, and it should draw that. Okay, draw that those things. Okay, technically to the intent of your test data. So how to keep it okay confidential? Okay, this is more of okay the test uh, data that gets stored in system. Okay, how it stores confidentially. If that is the question, that's a different aspect. But the question is when the test data is confidential, like password and personal data, again, have the this is about okay, how do you manage the test data, which is more of confidential. I cannot okay name the project, or I cannot tell what I did. I was working for a project, and that project had a data of people of that country. And I had a data of the president of that country. I had the data of okay the political people. Means as a data, I can reach out easily. I know address, phone numbers, all those things. Okay, and this data was in okay testing. Okay, so this data okay was not exposed to the outside world, and it was sandboxed. It was maintained okay in versions, and we use. I said okay of a country, not just okay like for few of a country. So especially okay data which identifies a person okay in one or the other way, and their opinions and thoughts, and means I can understand okay who is that person. Okay, means what are his thought process politically and economically by looking at the test data. So your question is, it looks like more about the test data management. And again, I said, okay, this is a space of engineering within the software engineering. How do I manage the test data? Because the test data talks about the system more. The people, okay, who test for security, they work on payloads. They work on payloads a lot. And the people who test for performance, they work on payloads. And people who test for accessibility, they test for payloads. But we are wired, okay, means we test engineers, okay, who are testing, okay, in a generic way, we are wired, okay, data, and we go. But the data actually speaks a lot about system. So a data about a data that I built for as a payload, it can talk about system in terms of, okay, accessibility, performance, security, a lot. So again, as I said, okay, this is a space in within the software engineering, that is a test data management. Okay, so how should the test data handle this in terms of security? So how do you handle the code of a software uh, of a business? So it is maintained, right? It's well maintained within the some version control system, right? Where only few can access and who can access, and they have like multiple ways, multiple layers of authentication, right? Same thing here as well. Okay. If I not answer your question, Sakuna, let me know for this question. In the AI era, do we rely on LLM generated test data, and how much can we believe those? Okay. What are the additional steps we need to take after getting LLM's data? Okay. Okay. There is a paper called, okay, there is a research paper from the Google people. I think it came a long time back. It's something like attention is all needed. Attention is all needed. You can search for this. Okay. It's a you'll get, okay, the PDF copy, and it says attention is all needed. Say attention. When you need attention, you need awareness, right? Which is spoke earlier. So this attention, right? They for these AI systems, they try to program and build attention. So if I'm talking to you, you can understand me because you're paying the attention, and you're able to map what I'm telling, and what it is, because we are humans, we have been trained, and our brain has been trained to receive, analyze, and understand, and question back. So if that has to be done by the AI system, how? That means the first step is to build the attention. So this is where, okay, the transformer come into picture. Okay. So ingest, okay, ingest at the side of LLMs. Now, test data by LLMs, it will happen. So, but today, whatever we see in web, okay, generate some data. It's giving some data. Is it good enough? That's a question mark. I said, okay, it can be unstructured data to some extent, and is it does it help? Yes, it helps. But does that help to the intent of my test? What is the intent of my test? If my intent of my test is to test the login, if my the intent of my test is to test the authentication system of a system, authentication system of a system, the login and the password. That is a way to authenticate. Okay, one of the way that I can authenticate. So if I do this, can I go and tell to my architect that, or to the customer, I have tested the authentication system? Can I go and tell that? I could log in and with a valid credentials. I could not log in with invalid credentials, or I could not log in with valid in these cases. But does that tell, did Ravi Surya and or his team actually test the authentication system? This is a question that should come to me. Okay, so for today, LLM can generate data, but does that data is good enough? Does that data actually go and test the authentication system? And if I believe, or if I understand, I, I could log in, I could not log in, and this is authentication. That's my range of awareness. Now I should be growing in terms of awareness. What actually is authentication? Login is one of the ways to authenticate, but is login all the authentication in that engineering system? So LLMs might be giving data, and with attention that it has got, but that attention, what it has got today, might not be sufficient. Tomorrow it will become better, but again, it cannot do unless it knows what is the intent of my test. what is the intent of the data that I want from it. Okay, unless okay it can think like I do, with the context awareness, okay, and the attention that I have, and or I'm looking at, it cannot probably give that. Will it happen at some time? I don't know, but definitely okay. We'll we'll be uh, we'll be making progress there for sure. Should I use that test data from LLMs? Why not use it? Okay, and just okay, don't depend on one LLM, and just don't depend on okay one way of doing it. If possible, okay, try to deploy that locally within your space. Trying that, okay, trying that on test data, okay, the intents, and see how it goes. Probably okay, and try to change okay the the variables and vectors, and do that. Okay, um, and see if it can match. Okay, and if it can let you think. Okay, a test which did not come to my mind. Okay, try that. I hope I answered that. What are the additional setups that we need to take after getting used data? See, uh, don't coming to a thought is good enough. So this is a trigger that I use always in my mind. What is the problem here? I think this is from James Back again. What is the problem here? And one of the testers, Ben Simo, picked that from James, and he did a lot of work on that phrase. What's the problem here? Do I see a problem here? Okay. So likewise, okay, I built a trigger, okay, which I'm using since 2006 7 in my career, and it's helping me. Okay, is that okay? What am I seeing here? What more I can see here? Okay, this what I'm saying is actually what am I saying? What am I saying is actually what am I saying? So there's something okay. The trigger is this, and I try to map them okay technically, and see how that data is good enough or sufficient enough or not, or it's something okay different from what I want. So there is no one way here to work on this. Okay, again, it is an area of practice. But whatever LMs gives today, okay, don't be with it. One example okay, that I want to share. I gave okay one division question to the one of the LLMs, and it gave okay answer. But I questioned back, okay, is this right? Because I'm seeing something else in my calculation. It again next time, okay, it gave the different answer. Now I know whatever okay it gave was not right, and now now whatever it's giving it's not right. I again initiated okay the same thing in a different way, and it gave the different answers. But in this three, okay, the third one is close to my calculation, which is actually right because I believe and I know what I did, what I got in the remainder and the portions was right in my division for that long number. But that model was taking to a different direction, and that was not right. Okay, so question back that question back. So question back. You test the data that you're getting from LLM. Test, test. So using LLM to head of testing, and we should also test that what it offers us. Yeah. What are the considerations when the applications handling large data sets under high memory usage? Okay. So again, as I said, right, you should have okay that version of your test data, and you should monitor how that test data is okay influencing the usage of your CPU, usage of your disk I/O, and RAM. So one example, okay, that heap memory, okay, spike was not noticed by my team, but I was maintaining, okay, means I was maintaining, okay, the heap snaps for every deployments and revisions of that endpoint, and I could see, okay, within like 2 or 3 iterations of my test, the heap size grew huge, and I knew by this okay on the prod okay this is the space given and okay this is the auto scaling and okay this is time this will lead to out of memory conditions and it led in the pre-prod. So the team could okay identify that and optimize that endpoint. So how you have to monitor it means you have to observe. Again, how do you observe? Okay, awareness. Okay, awareness and test data. Okay, which leads to that should be engineered into a test with that intent, and the test should have that intent. So the test intent was to know what is the memory consumption, and to support that, I add a test data to with the same intent, which complements. So it happened. So memory usage. So again, it's more of contextual. Um, it's a large data set. What is a large data set? Okay. So I'm not aware of, okay, since I don't have context of that, what is that large data sets? Okay, you're saying, um, let's say now, um, I am pushing, okay, some data from client to server, okay, with large set, okay, large push. Now, okay, again, this comes into the area of, okay, the security. I think it's a OASP API top 9, or I think it's top 10 or top 9 for top 9 or top 10 2023, where, okay, there is no limit on data that I'm pushing, and which eventually, okay, makes the system, okay, not to offer what it was to offer because of the size of data that I'm pushing in data. Okay, that's of a huge memory, and system cannot handle at that side. Now we see the perspective of data is changing from functionality, performance, security. So it's all in how do I visualize and how do I engineer with what is the intent of my test, with what is the intent of the data. Okay. What are you go to checklist when you start preparing test data? Okay. Understand, okay, the domain of test data. When I say domain, um, domain in terms of business, domain in terms of market, domain in terms of the technology. You should have, okay, the association of this, and you should, okay, try to engineer, okay, from here and work on, okay, the test data, knowing how the system is built technically. So unless I know system is how the system is built, okay, technically, probably I cannot sample much uh, which is good enough to the context to say we have covered, okay, this test and this in data, and this is what we have learned, and this is the test and data which we think is of priority for the context of business and in this areas. Will not come to know that. So as a test engineer, I should have a blend. See, it's not just a test engineer. Any engineer on the team or anyone on the team, okay, who is working on this, they should have, okay, this blend of it. Okay. Okay, I'll come back to chat questions. Srini, if authentication involves 10 different things, checking whether user and password combination is one test, that test, one dimension of authentication process. Uh, any other questions? Okay, let me know in chat. Yeah, it's 9:30. I think it's 1 hour from 30 minutes. Yeah, we'll find up in 10 minutes. I'm just, okay, rereading the questions. Um, Shashank, I think I tried to interpret your question. Rather saying I answered your question, I try to interpret, and probably it made sense. If not, okay, do let me know. Yeah, do let me know. Should and happy to see you, yes, Shashank. Should test data always be passed from external source only? Where you have to pass? Means when you say from external source, where you are trying to pass? How? That's not clear yet. Hence, I'm not able to interpret to the extent what how I want to interpret and reason it. Test coverage and data coverage are different. Yes, they're different, but they complement each other, and each other tell about who is the other person, who is other. Yeah, data coverage is important, and most of the times, okay, we talk about test coverage and we don't talk about data coverage. So when you say test coverage, it associates very closely to the data coverage, and this both can tell how effective and how good is the sampling done in the testing and in the data bit. Okay. ESDF 1234 is structured. I can design a regex to match. Yeah, it appears to have a business rule or logic related, but it is structured. Yes. See, unstructured is a structure in a way, but when it's a structured, um, I give a structure to it. Okay, and the structure can have the unstructured within it. So it's like the other vessel. The unstructuredness also has structure, and it tells something. And over the period of, okay, um, test data exercising, we can recognize the pattern probably to some extent, even in unstructured data that we like ASDF 134, JJJJ. So at least it will tell, okay, probably who is that person, or who is, okay, that person, okay, wanted, or why, okay, why did he go that way, or why did she go that way. we can probably draw some lines, though not concluding. Can you share an example where the test intent goes in one direction and test data goes in another direction? Yeah. Again, if my intent was to know, can I authenticate only within by only by using a login email and password, and not by the other ways? How do I craft my test data for this? So my test data should be in a way that I'm not passing you the valid username and valid password. But still, I can authenticate with this data. What is that data? What is that? What is that data? What? How can I do that without actually entering uh, login credentials? How can I do that? Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible in systems. We should know the system for that. How to do that? And if you see here, I said okay, shift back, okay, shift left. The test, okay, how I can authenticate in the system without my credentials. One back, step back. Now I know. Now I want to learn the system, and now I want to craft a test data for it. And now I should okay bring the intent of my testing to that my test intent of my test to that test data, and process further. That's one example, and we can pick this one in actually in one session, and we can do a lot more deep in analysis, and we can apply a test on that, and the testing thought on this. We can do that. We can do this on the APIs test, okay, like Crappy or like a WebGoat. We can try this there. Chidamara, yeah, again, as I said, okay, the Conway's law and inverse of Conway's law, though it was okay, it came back okay somewhere in 1960s. It's applicable even today as well. So to reiterate, the system architecture is more of a reflection about the communication and the structure of a organization. So the communication that happens in the organization and the structure of organization actually reflect the system architecture. In another, at least we can draw that picture. I can do that. I can experience that in the places where I work. And the inverse of that is Conway's law. That's inverse of Conway's law is also applicable very much to the microservices um, uh, space, where okay this each okay team which works on microservices, they're confined to only what they do. They will not know okay what the other team is doing, but they are by contract, and they abide by okay whatever they should agree to make sure that connection happens in system. Okay, now again if you look at here, okay, the team structure and that communication okay defines how these microservices teams are formed. And this is a problem okay when it comes to how to manage the test data in the upper system, which can be consumed by the whole engineering teams. So this is a place okay where we get okay someone came and deleted my data, or someone is using my data, or my test data is polluted, I cannot use it anymore. So how to solve this? So this is a problem of okay the practice engineering team, and if I take that to the stakeholders in the heart, they will have a bigger problems to solve, and this might not be the pain point for them, but however okay it's a pain point for us, but not to them. And how to deal with that? Okay, is how do we manage okay the communication? Saying okay this is a test data management inventory, and this is the versions of my test data, and do not test okay this data and do not use okay this data when you see in a test system. Does this work? To some extent, but the pain point exists in test data. So that's why I'm saying okay test data is so crucial. Okay, people do not pay attention to it, and we pollute it. But when we do not know the intent of the test data, we pollute it. So when someone knows the intent, like when someone knows the intent of okay the microservice which is giving that authority system, they will be very aware and very conscious when they're going and touching that code, right? Likewise, okay, we should be educated. We should be educating consistently on the intent of test data and why it is that way, and why we shouldn't pollute it. It's a practice. It's a culture. Like how the say a company says this is our culture. You know, we engineer. This should be it should also reflect on test data as well. Okay, and I see that uh, I'm testing. I'm testing the net banking app. Okay, I want customer account in CBS system and set balance to zero. Okay, what now? See, now you know the intent of your test. You're trying to see, okay, can you test, means can you set bank balance to zero? That's the intent of your test. Means how to learn, means you're trying to learn, can I do that in system, or can I set the bank balance to zero? So my my bank balance was zero for a long time, so and bank system to allow okay that zero amount, okay, unless okay they do keep account active. If it's okay zero, my account was active in a zero, okay, zero amount for a long time. And the test, okay, then how did okay that bank kept active for yes, well it's zero. So there is some okay, there is some constraints or okay, some something in system that is letting it to do it. So my test data should go and touch that part first. Means I should know that in system how it is happening technically. Yeah. And again, see the intent of a data and in a test should come in um, hand by hand. A login password conventional is one login to is a test for authentication logic. Yeah, see, logging in. If I log in with password, password is that authentication. That is the purpose of authentication. Okay, password, uh, email ID and password. Login. See, that is the purpose of it, and that is okay. What it's supposed to do. That it should okay let me in as soon as okay it matches okay this data with data what it has to authenticate. Yeah, and so this is the outcome of authentication login. Successful login is the outcome of the authentication. Failure of authentication when I provide okay failure of login when I provide incorrect thing, that is the outcome of authentication system. If I see successful login as the authentication, probably my understanding is not to a bigger range of awareness of a system. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's not a bigger or it's not a okay well thought awareness. So I should understand authentication for first in system. What is authentication? Okay. Again, okay, how to test that authentication? The data and test. Again, this goes into the aspect of multiple areas, functionalities and security and how it works. Maybe another topic for that is 10 different things. If authentication was 10 different things, checking whether the username password combination is one test. If authentication involves 10 different things, checking whether a username password combination is one test, that test one time. Yes, again I'm saying okay, letting into the system, it doesn't say that I test for authentication. That should be the job of, or that is the purpose of that okay that system. Which system? Authentication system. It's trying to recognize me with okay with these credentials and try to match them. That is one of the operations. But is this the whole authentication? So today we have a multi-factor, say like this one SSO, and we try to authenticate in a multi-factor authentication, and there are like a lot of ways how we authenticate. So how the system is built to authenticate. Again, authentication is different from authorization. If I'm okay taking OAuth or this JWT tokens for authentication, no, they are authorization. But if my tests are in the mode saying that authorization is authentication, I'm doing it wrong. Yeah. So yeah, that's a wrap up. I see. Thanks for the questions, Sri Sir, Avantigala, Sukanya, Chidambara, and Shashank. I hope I did justice for your 1 hour 15 minutes. Yeah, I enjoyed. It let me to think and learn. It let me to relearn. Okay, like yeah, relearn and map multiple things in my um, thoughts. Thank you. Thank you for that. And see you in next. Ask me your question in next session, and do let me know. Okay, if you have any specific topic that we should pick, and you share me questions, we will try to analyze them and learn. Or if not, I will share okay one topic next time, or deep into the again test data. We'll do that, like how to engineer test data. Let's do that. Yeah. So this helps for okay for testing and automation, both. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for your time. I value it, and see you soon. Namaskara.